Ethan Calloway was born and raised in the flat prairies of Kansas, where the summer sky could transform from serene blue to boiling black in a matter of hours. Tornadoes were part of his childhood lore. He grew up with that constant possibility, hearing sirens wail in the night and seeing swirling funnels dance along distant horizons. The tension between awe and fear fueled his passion. By age 14, he knew he wanted to chase storms, to decipher their unpredictable power. He became a storm chaser in his 20s. He joined research teams, drove vans bristling with instruments, and spent long hours rattling down country roads in pursuit of swirling supercells. Over the years, he documented dozens of tornadoes, enthralled by each violent funnel that raked the land. They were destructive, yes, but also mesmerizing forces of nature that demanded respect. Yet in the spring of his 31st year, an odd pattern emerged. Reports trickled in about a series of tornadoes that tore across remote farmland, leaving barely any physical damage, no barns leveled, no fences uprooted. Instead, they left something far more disturbing: missing people. Entire households vanished from the storm's paths without a trace. The houses themselves stood intact, unscathed. No typical wreckage, no broken windows, no splintered wood. Just empty rooms, abandoned farm trucks in driveways, dinner plates left mid-meal. The rumor mill churned. Some whispered about abductions, secret government experiments, or bizarre weather anomalies. But Ethan and his fellow chasers found no concrete explanation. Survivors from neighboring properties were rattled, describing the funnel's roar and shrieking winds. More unsettling were their accounts of hearing voices in the storm, calling to them by name. When they tried to investigate, the tornado either disappeared or never came near enough to harm them. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about those stories. A tornado that left houses untouched but took the people. He needed to see for himself. By early June, the meteorological data suggested another severe weather outbreak was imminent. Ethan's chase partner, Nate, pulled up radar scans showing a classic supercell signature forming south of Dodge City. The dryness of the preceding months gave the region an explosive potential for storms once moisture funneled in. They set out in Ethan's SUV, rigged with a roof-mounted camera and anemometers, plus a laptop bristling with forecasting software. On the radio, they heard more chatter. Multiple local chasers were converging on the same storm. En route, Ethan called an old friend, a retired meteorologist named Warren. Warren had also heard the rumors of missing residents. "Ethan," Warren said gravely, "this thing's not normal. People say they hear loved ones calling from inside the funnel. If you see anything strange, you back off, hear me?" Ethan forced a laugh. "Don't worry, I'm cautious. I just need to get close enough for data." A pause. "Storm chasing's always been risky, but this is different. A twister that doesn't wreck buildings but steals people. Something else is going on." Ethan nodded silently. He knew all the standard storm-chasing precautions, monitoring outflow, hooking around the rear flank. Yet the survivors' claims made the hair on his neck stand up. They raced west. Low-hanging clouds bunched on the horizon, black and menacing. Lightning flickered. Thunder growled. The sun sank, painting the sky in bruised oranges and purples. The funnel formed around 7:30 p.m. First a swirl of dust near the ground, then a twisting trunk connecting to the roiling base of the cloud. Adrenaline surged in Ethan's veins. He filmed from half a mile away, the tornado's silhouette stark against the stormy backdrop. His instruments measured wind speed climbing to 60, 70, 80 milliquadrant. But the funnel seemed oddly calm in its forward progression, as though gliding rather than tearing across the fields. They expected typical signs: flying debris, uprooted fence posts, battered trees. Instead, the farmland below looked barely disturbed. The funnel's roar was present, but subdued, as if muffled. They moved to intercept, creeping closer on a dirt road. Then, to their shock, the tornado abruptly dissipated like a candle snuffed out. The swirling funnel retracted into the cloud base, leaving stillness. Cautious, they drove to the next farmhouse. The building was intact, no smashed windows. Yet no one answered the door or responded to shouts. A pickup truck sat in the driveway, the driver's door open, engine off. Nate scratched his head. Hell of a storm, except there's no damage and no people. Ethan's gut twisted. He found a half-eaten sandwich on the porch rail, as if someone had set it down mid-bite. A creeping dread overtook him. This matched the pattern. The storm had come, swirling overhead, and the occupants were just gone. In the following days, Ethan contacted local authorities. The sheriff's department was overwhelmed with missing person reports. Many farms in the tornado's path were deserted. Investigations found no signs of struggle, no footprints leading away, just emptiness. Some neighbors claimed they glimpsed silhouettes within the funnel, arms reaching out, or they heard voices of the missing. The press latched onto the phenomenon, dubbing the tornado the Whispering Wind. Conspiracy theories flourished online. Some said it was an alien vortex, abducting humans in the guise of a tornado. Others insisted it was a supernatural entity claiming souls. Ethan pursued every lead. A woman from near Lakin recounted how the storm's approach began with a faint murmur, like a radio playing from afar. Then she heard her deceased brother's voice calling her name. Terrified, she hid in the storm cellar. When she emerged, the storm was gone and her neighbors had vanished. She heard a dead brother's voice, Nate muttered, scanning Ethan's expression. You believe that? Ethan struggled to respond. He recalled the survivors' claims, voices in the wind, calling them by name. Some recognized voices of loved ones, living or dead. So many consistent details from unconnected witnesses made it impossible to dismiss as coincidence. A week later, a new setup promised another round of supercells. Ethan and Nate identified a prime target area north of Liberal, Kansas. The day was scorching, the air thick with tension. By afternoon, cumulonimbus towers climbed high, an anvil top spreading like a massive mushroom. They reached the storm's edge around 5 p.m. Rotation was strong, the radar showing a hook echo signature typical of a tornado in formation. They parked at a vantage on a dirt road, cameras rolling. A swirling funnel dropped from the black clouds, funneling dust aloft. This was their chance to gather data. Ethan maneuvered the SUV closer, ignoring the tight coil in his gut. All standard procedure, except for the nagging knowledge that this funnel could vanish without a trace, leaving missing persons in its wake. As the tornado touched down fully, they saw power lines arc in the distance. No major damage to structures, just that weird hush again. The roar was subdued, the swirling debris minimal. Ethan hopped out with a wind meter and tripod, bracing himself in the gusts. Then he heard it. A faint voice on the wind, nearly drowned by the rumble of the storm. At first he assumed it was static from the radio or wind whistling around the SUV. But the voice sharpened. Ethan? He froze. Nate's head jerked up, scanning around. Did you say something? Ethan shook his head, skin prickling. The voice repeated, more distinct. Ethan, come here. He recognized the voice. It was the soft timbre of his mother, who died 3 years ago from cancer. He hadn't heard her voice since the funeral's recordings. His breath caught painfully in his chest. Was the storm mimicking her? He turned to Nate, eyes wide. Do you hear that? Nate nodded, face pale. It's calling your name, man. The wind howled, the funnel spinning perhaps 200 yards away. Dust swirled, and through that cacophony, the voice drifted. Ethan, it's me. I miss you. Come inside. Terror mingled with a twisted yearning. Ethan had mourned his mother's passing deeply, wishing for one more conversation. Now that longing voice was beckoning from a tornado. The funnel glided across the field, and, fleetingly, Ethan glimpsed shapes in the swirling debris, human outlines, arms outstretched, faces contorted in silent pleas. One shape resembled an older woman, another was a young man. More shapes flickered in the swirling column, ephemeral as shadows on smoke. He staggered backward, heart thundering. This was beyond all reason. He heard his dead mother's voice beckoning from that rotating vortex, saw phantom figures swirling within. Nate, he croaked, we need to get out of here. But even as he said it, part of him wanted to run forward, to find his mother inside the storm's eye. The longing tugged at his soul. Nate gripped Ethan's arm, shouting over the wind. No way, man, back to the car. In a daze, Ethan stumbled to the SUV. They peeled away, dust pluming behind them. The tornado drifted after them at a diagonal, though it never fully closed the distance. Ethan kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting spectral hands to reach through the swirling funnel for him. Soon after, the funnel dissipated as usual. No one was reported missing in that area this time. But Ethan's mind reeled. He couldn't deny hearing his mother. And the fleeting shapes inside the funnel, were they the missing residents, trapped in some twisted dimension? That night, Ethan barely slept. Each time he closed his eyes, he heard her voice again. "Come inside." A siren call. He dreamt he was a child again, chasing after her in a field while a storm brewed overhead. Warren, the retired meteorologist, visited Ethan the next day. Over coffee, Ethan recounted everything. Warren's face grew grim. It's as if the storm, or something within it, is luring people by using voices they trust. "Why us? Why now?" Ethan asked, voice quivering. Warren sighed. "Sometimes legends speak of wind spirits or supernatural weather phenomena that prey on human emotion. But I've never heard of an actual tornado that does this. Possibly it's a new kind of atmospheric anomaly tapping into our psyche. We can't be sure." Ethan wanted to dismiss talk of spirits, but he had no better explanation. The next storm was forecast in a few days. He resolved to chase it one last time, to gather definitive proof. If it truly was calling people inside, maybe he could record evidence to warn others. The atmosphere across central Kansas grew unstable. By late afternoon, convection soared into colossal thunderheads. Ethan and Nate drove out once again, hearts pounding with anticipation. They told themselves this would be the last chase with these bizarre storms. Radar indicated a forming supercell near Great Bend. They navigated side roads, careful to maintain a safe approach. As dusk fell, the storm's updraft towers glowed in the setting sun, an eerie spectacle. Suddenly, the hooking echo formed on radar. A tornado warning blasted over their radio. They saw it drop from the clouds like a writhing beast, a thick grey trunk rotating methodically. The wind whipped dust across the farmland. They parked on a ridge, cameras rolling. The funnel advanced slowly, surreal in the twilight. Once again, there was minimal debris. The storm's roar seemed half-muted, as if existing in a separate dimension. The voices started quietly this time, drifting across the fields like echoes. Ethan and Nate heard multiple distinct tones, an old man calling for his wife, a child crying, a teenage boy pleading for help. The swirl of voices layered into a haunting chorus. Ethan's blood ran cold. The father of a missing family? The child from that abandoned farmhouse? He recognized the boy's name from earlier news reports. And then, cutting through the chorus, came Ethan's mother's voice again. It rang clearer than before, filling his ears. "Ethan, please, I need you." He trembled, tears prickling his eyes. A swirl of conflicting emotions battered him. Love, fear, longing. The tornado shifted direction, edging closer. The silhouettes within the funnel were more defined now, dozens of them, arms reaching outward. Nate shouted, "Let's retreat, man, we have enough footage." But Ethan stood rooted. His mother's voice repeated, heartbreakingly gentle, "Come inside." He took a step forward, ignoring the stinging grit in the air. He recalled childhood memories, her warm embrace, lullabies on stormy nights. The funnel towered, swirling dust and fragments of cornstalks. Despite the howling wind, that voice was heartbreakingly intimate, beckoning him to close the gap. Nate grabbed his shoulder. "Ethan, don't be insane." Ethan's eyes shone with tears. I can't leave her." He took another step. The funnel loomed maybe 100 yards away, rotating with mesmerizing patterns of debris. Inside, he was sure he saw her face. She looked just as she did before her illness, smiling gently. The roar crescendoed, thunder cracking overhead. Ethan unclasped Nate's grip and sprinted forward, tears streaming. Time slowed. He vaguely registered Nate screaming for him to stop. The wind whipped at his clothes, but he pressed on, drawn by that beloved voice. As he neared the swirling edge, the shapes within the vortex became clearer. Frightened men, women, children, swirling in an endless loop. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly sheen. Some reached out as if to warn him away. Others beckoned him closer, and there, at the swirling heart, he saw her, his mother, arms open wide, whispering, "Come inside, come with me." Fear warred with devotion. The wind tore at his jacket. Grit lashed his face, but the call was irresistible. He stepped forward, crossing the boundary where the swirling debris whipped dangerously. The tornado's wind buffeted him, threatening to hurl him aside. He crouched, gasping, eyes locked on his mother's outstretched hand. Within the chaos, he glimpsed fleeting scenes. A kaleidoscope of missing farmers, children, old neighbors, swirling in a dimension that defied logic. They were neither harmed nor safe, trapped in the storm's cyclical breath. He saw farmhouses from memory, fields of wheat, a sky overshadowed by a perpetual vortex, a place beyond normal reality. The wind roared like distant thunder. His mother's face flickered between love and sorrow, as if pleading for release from an endless captivity. In that moment, Ethan realized the tornado was no mere weather phenomenon. It was a portal, a hungry vortex that lured souls with the voices of lost loved ones, ensnaring them in its swirling domain. Suddenly, strong arms encircled Ethan's waist from behind. Nate had followed, latched onto him, anchoring them both. The gale nearly knocked them over, but Nate dragged Ethan backward inch by inch. "Not like this," Nate roared, face contorted with effort. The wind threatened to tear Ethan from his grip. Dust and debris stung their eyes. Ethan fought the urge to break free. His mother's face inside the funnel was heartbreakingly real, tears glistening. She mouthed his name, arms still outstretched. For an agonizing second, he nearly yielded, wanting to join her, but the weight of reality intruded. This was a trap. If he stepped fully inside, he might become one of those swirling silhouettes, never to return. With a final heave, Nate yanked him clear of the vortex's edge. They collapsed onto the ground, dust swirling around them. The tornado pivoted as if frustrated, wind lashing in protest. Then, like before, it abruptly dissipated, the funnel retracting into the roiling clouds. Ethan lay panting, tears streaked with mud. The farmland was left relatively intact, but his heart felt shredded. The image of his mother's sorrowful face burned into his mind. The storm system soon moved east, and the tornado reports ceased. Officials combed the region, but only found more missing person cases. No bodies, no damage, just empty farmsteads. The phenomenon slowly faded from headlines as the unusual outbreak ended. Some people chalked it up to mass hysteria, others to supernatural forces. Ethan retreated from public view, grappling with guilt and confusion. Had he truly seen his mother? Or was it an illusion designed to lure him to a fate worse than death? He replayed that moment of near surrender in his mind, haunted by how close he came to joining the storm's captives. He and Nate parted ways eventually. Nate quit chasing altogether, shaken by the harrowing experience. Ethan tried to keep chasing, but each thunderhead now filled him with dread. The siren call of the wind haunted his dreams, the memory of his mother's voice whispering, "Come inside." Months passed. Ethan researched any historical precedent for such storms. Legends of wind demons, accounts of ephemeral tornadoes that took souls. He found scattered folklore in old frontier diaries about twisters leaving no ruin but missing settlers. Some diaries mentioned hearing the voices of lost travelers in the wind. No conclusive evidence, just murmurings of something that devoured or claimed human life. He corresponded with meteorologists across the country, sharing his bizarre data. Most were skeptical or politely dismissed him. A handful admitted the anomaly defied standard meteorological understanding, but they had no explanation for the phenomenon of voices or missing persons. On a chilly autumn evening, Ethan stood alone on a dusty Kansas back road, gazing at a broad horizon streaked with clouds. The air carried the faint smell of harvested fields. Dusk settled in, and for the first time in months he felt a subtle shift in the wind, a gentle whisper through the grasses. He closed his eyes, half fearing he'd hear that voice again, calling him inside. Instead, there was only a rustle, the hush of nature. No tornado formed. No ghostly mother beckoned. He exhaled shakily. The phenomenon seemed dormant now, perhaps sleeping until the next season's storms. If it ever returned, would he have the strength to resist the voices again? Rumors claimed that on certain windy nights, if one ventured onto the prairies alone, they might hear faint pleas echoing across the starlit fields, the missing calling for help. Some folks reported seeing distant funnels flicker in the moonlight, then vanish. The official line was that these sightings were illusions or weather anomalies, yet survivors of that tornado outbreak never forgot the horror. Families placed memorials for their vanished loved ones, uncertain if they were dead or trapped somewhere beyond the swirling veil. Ethan carried that uncertainty too, knowing he'd glimpsed their shapes in the wind, arms reaching out. He still woke at times, heart pounding, convinced he heard his mother's voice on the night breeze. A part of him always yearned to see her again, but he remembered the swirling figures locked in the tornado's grasp and the terror of that final moment. With a trembling heart, he would cling to the knowledge that he remained free. So the Kansas plains returned to normal, farmers harvesting wheat, children playing under open skies. Yet a quiet fear lingered. If the wind rose and the sky blackened again, if a funnel glided across the fields whispering your name in a beloved voice, could you resist stepping forward? Or would you too vanish into the voices in the tornado, never to be seen again?